Hello everyone and welcome to our Journalist Roundtable. Today we look back at 2018, a very eventful year for Europe, full of drama and surprises. Brexit, our daily divorce telenovela with many twists and turns. The Yellow Vest Revolution in France takes the category of historical drama. The German Chancellor Angela Merkel begins her last act on the political stage, and the new government in Italy has also offered us their share of political entertainment. With me to discuss these topics are my Euronews colleagues Sasha, our economy expert, Alastair from our English language team, Salvatore from our Italian team, and myself, Lena, from the German team. So let's begin. The US top model Chrissy Teigen said recently on Twitter that one of her goals for 2019 was to understand Brexit, and I don't think she's the only one. Alastair, can you briefly sum it up?
What kind of question is that?
Where are we in this long telenovela? I mean, there will be a season 2019 for Brexit.
Absolutely, and a season 2020 and 2021 and 2022 and onwards. It's the end of 30 years of simmering tension over Europe. I mean, it's gone back a very long time. That said, most people were fairly nonplussed about the whole thing. But of course, the last 20 years just saw it all stir up, and it led up to the referendum. And then how it's being played out, though, is really, I think, gone beyond anyone's expectations in the way that it's caused these divisions, almost like an act of faith now for the Brexiteers, and they've really tapped into a chord for many people about the nation state and about the flag and about the family and about their roots and the passport. And of course it plays into all sorts of other things. We're going to talk about the gilets jaunes in France, and again it's the kind of left behind people in inverted commas against the elites, but it's gone so far now, of course, that we're coming up against the practicalities of it, with the deal that's before Parliament that looks like it's going to be very hard for Theresa May to get through. So what is likely to happen after that? It's a real impasse, it's a real gridlock. No one knows. You ask any experts and they say we just do not know what is going to happen now. But it is a real clash that we've got now between what is a case of identity for lots of people and a real destiny for the country, having had that referendum, however ill thought out it was, and others who are now looking at the practicalities and the likely consequences, especially if there is no agreement. And it's going to be very interesting few weeks and months ahead.
So even experts are sometimes lost, and for many families it's going to be a difficult Christmas between Remainers and Brexiteers at the same table.
Well, the conversations certainly will be quite entertaining this year.
Well, I've got two lots of cousins, and one lot live in the north of England, and they pretty much all voted for Brexit, I think, and the ones in the south were very staunchly against it, so they don't know each other, so that's okay. But I think that it's likely to be a little conversation here and there, certainly. Yeah.
We had our viewers asking questions concerning Brexit. Georgie wanted to know, hasn't this joke gone a bit far? I mean, Brexit does offer a lot of material for comedians all over Europe.
Well, in the immediate aftermath of the vote, actually, a few days later, England were playing football in the European Championships, and they lost to Iceland. And I made a comment on Facebook, that's 2 Brexits in 1 week. And Salvatore replied to me, and he said, he remembers, how about another referendum to replay the match or something like that? Or no, what was it? How about we do it, replay the match? And we all laughed. Everybody laughed. But now, of course, there is a big movement to replay the match, the second referendum. And if you're a Brexiteer, then you're like an Iceland fan. Imagine 2 years later that they are going to play the match and you might not have won after all.
Yeah, I mean, Daria, one of our viewers, and she's not the only one, she wants to know, will there maybe be another voting? But, I mean, you haven't brought your crystal ball with you, so I don't know how to...
What's in Theresa May's mind? And even if it wouldn't be just up to her. She can't be replaced now by her Conservative Party because she faced them down successful.
Yes.
However, the cabinet is still divided over what the other solution is. Of course, she is going all out to get this deal through.
Yeah, Brexit
and
means
of course, she's officially saying, well, yes, not just that, but yes, her version of Brexit is this compromise deal with the EU that is the result of 18 months of negotiations. And it's in a way, people are saying, how can she put off this vote? It's terrible. In a way, it's a very shrewd move because they've been beavering away on the detail for this amount of time. Some ministers fell by the wayside when they didn't like what was happening. At the same time, they had a rowdy debate over 5 days in Parliament when they saw the detail of it. And on both sides, all sides, they're going, oh, it's terrible. So it looks like there's a big majority against it. So, however, the spectre of no deal and also the fact that there may not be another practical solution is going to concentrate minds over the next 2-3 weeks. Now, that is what Theresa May is thinking. If it still fails...
that's her game. I mean, this is what she's aiming for.
If it loses the vote, though, as is expected in Parliament, then what? Yeah. And there have been amendments before Parliament that they take a bit more control over the process, but there's doubts over how much weight they could have. Theresa May has been absolutely adamant that a second referendum would be a betrayal of the first vote and would be seen as massively anti-democratic and would lead people to have no faith in the political process for years to come. They would lose a generation. However, will she be able to force through what she wants, and if the alternative is what? Now, they are sounding out opinion in Parliament about a possible alternative, the Norway option, or extending Article 50, which I think is perhaps one of the likely, just to kick the can down the road for a couple of months. Will the EU agree to that, though? They've got the European elections coming up, and unless there's light at the end of the tunnel, they may say, well, we could do that, but that's still going to be in the same position 2 months down the road. So
well, we have many questions about no deal. Samika Tuda wants to know what's the situation of no deal. I mean, especially for the economy. It's already
no deal of no deal. We can
a deal about doing no deal.
Exactly, a deal about doing no deal. Well, basically, look. 2018 has been extremely complicated for anybody like running, especially a business that has some kind of connections, outside of the UK. Think about it. If you're a company, if you're running the business, and you're waiting to see what's going to happen, you're in the last year, basically before the end of March, right before the official Brexit day. As a business, you've got to plan stuff. You've got to plan. You cannot run a business like day by day. You've got to have plans, short-term and long-term plans. It's how could you make those plans if you don't know what's going to happen next
spend
week?
Your whole day watching the Parliament discussion.
Absolutely. But at the same time, do I hire people or probably not? Shall I wait? Shall I invest or shall I wait? Many opted for waiting, understandably, because they don't know what's going to happen, and they don't know what's going to happen to the pound at the same time with all the the value of the pound. So many companies decided to wait, and that's why basically when Theresa May came up with that deal. We had big headlines saying businesses are endorsing Theresa May's deal.
So they were
of course, they would basically endorse pretty much any deal to get some kind of clarity. Then they would be able... They're at that stage now when they're not there to choose between a good deal or a bad deal. They're choosing between a deal and no deal. Of course, they're ready to endorse any deal just to be able to plan.
Yeah, because any deal, at least there would be something written down.
Of course, there would be some clarity,
and then they
would
can
be
say,
able to sit down and say, okay, this is what we have. This is what the plans are for half a year, for 1 year. They will be able to get some clarity to run their businesses, and that's of course. It's not only just big companies, big businesses, multinationals. If you're running a small, corner shop, it's the same because people would not be willing to come and spend money because people would be thinking, well, shall I spend or shall I just wait a little bit? Who knows what's going to happen? Whether I'm going to keep my job.
It's everyone. It's also farmers.
Absolutely.
Who
so
export
it's like when we talk about companies and we talk about business, this is something that basically has a huge impact on any business, no matter whether you're a small corner shop or you're a big company, operating in many countries.
And also in Rotterdam, they were asking themselves, how do we deal with cargo, with waiting time, with additional controls? So,
well, they've been making plans, haven't they? I mean, the Dutch have been, and the French have been,
but also these are the plans. We have scenarios A, B, C, D, just in case. So, shall we get the plan B? Oh no. Plan C. So they're trying to to be as ready as possible in the current circumstances.
The solution, because for example, as Alistair say, the second referendum for May will be a defeat, but Amber Rudd, that is a personality very close to her, is the first minister that opened to this hypothesis.
Yes.
So, I mean, January will be a key month, will be a turning point. After the vote in Parliament, I think we will have the concrete request for a second referendum. About the democracy, the risk of democracy. I remember I spent 3 years in Ireland. In that period, Irish people voted twice on the constitutional referendum of European Union. And the first time they reject, then they impose them to vote again with a bit of terrorism. And Irish people vote for yes. Then the project was put down by France and Netherlands. But by the way, we already have an example of second referendum on the same issue in a very short delay.
Yes.
Can be this case, I don't know. But
also, I mean, you were saying it yourself. You said it was also a lot about identity, about. So it's maybe also now the information is different.
Well, the arguments are being rehearsed already. If it does come to a second referendum, then of course Brexiteers are crying betrayal, and they're saying this is classic EU tactics. It's like they don't like what the people vote for first time, so they make them do it again. Now it's a bit doesn't quite fit into that box in this case because they've gone down a certain road, and it would only be in the case of complete parliamentary gridlock, and if the deal then is voted down. However, of course, they would say, well, we voted to leave, then it has to be on no deal. But of course, this is a second referendum. That would be seen as massively betraying that first vote. And of course, then it depends on what's on the paper, and this would the ballot paper, and this makes it even more complicated because it could be a three-way thing. It could be Theresa May's deal, no deal, or remain in the EU. Now,
so this is going to stay on longer than Friends. I mean,
if no deal is not on the ballot paper, then pro-Brexit people, not all of them, but I mean a lot of them will be crying that this is just complete stitch-up, this is betrayal, there's not even a proper Brexit on the ballot paper. But of course, if it is on the ballot paper, especially in a three-way thing, then the chances are it might win because people are fed up with voting. They're fed up with the whole thing. A lot of people...
And fed up with the insecurity,
A lot of people on the streets. We had them when Damon, our reporter, was in England this week. A lot of people just saying, oh, just get us out. Just get us out.
Even those people who voted to remain or to leave, it doesn't matter. But they actually, in those reports by Damon and also by Brian before, when they're travelling all over the UK and they go to the borders as well. Even if you go to the, Damon went to was it Boston?
Yes, Boston,
the highest Brexit vote in the UK.
A lot of EU migrants went there.
So, and also, and like he was talking to people in the streets, and people were saying, look, yes, we voted Brexit, but we've lost track. We can't cope with everything that's happening in the politics. We've had enough. People can't really even follow every twist and turn that's happening in this Brexit process. And we're talking exactly about the people who made the decision, who voted, at the very referendum. Even they got tired. Even they have this Brexit fatigue now.
Absolutely, yeah, and that could come out.
Let alone the politicians, the journalists.
The second referendum is fraught with difficulties. I mean, the fatigue factor means that what if it's a lower turnout and then Remain wins, but by a similar margin, 52 to 48 or something? I mean, how would that resolve things?
But basically, whatever happens, all the options are difficult.
Yes,
there's no like easy thing. It's
which reinforces Theresa May's message and those of her supporters, which is that this deal is a sensible compromise. The result was 52-48. It gets us out of the EU, but it reflects the wishes of both sides, keeps the ties there, at the same time gets us out of the institutions. But of course, it's under fire from all sides. It's not the pure version of Brexit. It leaves Britain poorer than if they'd been in the EU. And of course, both sides say, we don't even have a say anymore. So we're forced to accept EU rules, and we don't have a voice at the table.
I mean, speaking of frustration and anger and wanting to be heard, I think that applies to the gilets jaunes movement, to the so-called yellow vests in France. We have seen them, thanks to the yellow vests, and we have also heard them. They want, they want heads to roll in France, and one of them would be President Emmanuel Macron. But I mean, there's also a lot of social anger that was maybe also there in Great Britain. It's just voiced differently.
Very similar themes certainly underplaying this. Yes, a kind of left behind market towns and countryside, if you like, in inverted commas.
Same.
Also anger against the political elite,
politics that has been driven
Paris.
by the metropolitan
they
bubble.
Don't know what we go through.
In a moment where the city are increasing in terms of population, we will have in 20 years the 70% of population in town, in cities, and the countryside will be almost unpopulated. And this war is coming up now. I would like to add something about May. There is no alternative. I mean, this moment, maybe she's in the strong moment of the last year, because there is no alternative to her. There is no alternative to this deal. But an historical achievement of Brexit, may I say, is the unity of European Union. We never see this unity in European Union since ever.
It's true.
And in front of Brexit, we are united. I mean, I never saw 27 countries go on this way. So that's keeping the first question.
That hasn't.
You're looking for the silver lining, aren't you?
It's like we are in a divorce.
Yes.
Now the property has been divided. Even the cost of the property has been established.
Who are the children? Scotland. Scotland wants to leave.
Now is the moment that you go back to your relatives and you say, look, we get that, we get that, and they say, no, we don't like it. And the problem is in London, not in Brussels.
Yes.
That hasn't been put to Brexiteers enough, I think. The fact that they complain about the attitude of the EU, but of course the EU is more than the Commission. It's the EU 27, the other 27 states. Sure enough, there were some differences that came to the fore in the last week before the agreement was approved. But at the same time, where were Britain's allies? They're supposed to have, in economic terms, then the Dutch or the Scandinavians, or in political terms, perhaps the suspicions of the Hungarians and the Poles. But they weren't anywhere near coming out and supporting them. It might be different if they do reach the next stage and then they really start having to negotiate a future trade deal, because then all the different interests at a national level come through.
Yeah.
But we were talking about gilets jaunes.
Yes, about anger and frustration in France, on the other side of the channel. One of our viewers wants to know if the movement will continue after Christmas, after the New Year. Are they going to
I think it will
take it up again?
Continue. The question would be at what scale, whether it's going to be as massive as what we saw like a couple of weeks ago. Our colleague Annalise Borges, she filmed this impressive documentary, France Days of Rage, where she basically traveled with the yellow vests all over France, and when they were going to Paris for one of those big days of protest, and then when she also sat down with them to listen and to watch to Macron's speech, the famous concession speech, let's put it that way, and then she asked them, well, would you go to Paris again? Would you keep protesting? And people said, yes, that's not enough. And these were exactly the voices of the people in the streets. So these are the yellow vests. They are saying, of course, there were also people saying, no, look, that's enough, I'm not going to come back. But as far as, as long as we have some parts of the gilets jaunes, of the yellow vests, saying, yes, we will be back in the streets, that is not enough, we should certainly expect more, probably in 2019, January.
And do you see an expansion of the movement to other European countries? I mean, we have seen a few yellow vests here and there, but not...
Certainly, the yellow vests in Brussels, the protest was massive.
Yeah, and in Brussels it was, yes.
That was so big, but this is exactly spreading, it will spread, because this is basically the cause is exactly this discontent. This anti-government policies, the general discontent. And this is vague enough. This is not something very specific for France. This is something that many people feel around Europe. They feel it in Italy, they feel it in Belgium, they feel it in Spain. So yes, it might spread all over the EU.
It's a brilliant symbol. I mean, it's really been...
The yellow vest, yes. That was very smart move.
The image of the year, this idea of people who've been ignored, who live out in the countryside or in small towns. And in France's case, of course, it's a vast countryside. Distances are huge, and people have to drive to work. And of course, that was what the straw that broke the camel's back. Of course, was the high taxes on petrol. But as a symbol, it's just a reminder: we exist. You know, here's this sort of silent, up until now, silent army of people who
it's like a yellow vest that you keep in your car. You don't take it every day. You know, this is something, but at the same time, this is something that you have.
Yeah.
So as simple, simple and powerful at the same time.
But I mean, picture-wise, it was certainly powerful because you had very different pictures than from the usual protests. It was a different, had a different impact.
But as for where it goes next, Sasha's right. I mean, there are some people who do want to take it further because it's become more than just about spending power, which was one of the underlying issues. But this deep pent frustration about the whole system
maybe also
failing
because I mean, Macron, he made concessions, he made promises, but I'm not sure if they had the feeling that he was humble enough,
or that
if they really have the feeling that they have been heard.
In some sense, this anger has been accumulating from even before Macron came to power.
It's
just about.
It was only a take time.
Yeah, exactly. But when it got so full, this is when it all.
Can you imagine yellow vests in Italy?
No, but not because the difference between countries, because we had this period. And I give you an example. We had this period when Berlusconi was in power. There is a similarity between Macron and Berlusconi. Both of them are leader of, in Italy we call it plastic party. I mean, En Marche and Forza Italia, they don't exist. I mean, when I was 10 years old, in my street, I had like the Communist Party section, the Democrazia Cristiana section, the far-right section. Now, if you go in any city of Europe, you cannot go anywhere. I mean, you don't have the representation of the political. So Macron, I mean, the people doesn't have an intermediation, a mediation between the power. So you have a guy in the Élysée that people see as a king, because
who in France nearly has as much power as a king.
They feel him very far from them, because if you talk with people, maybe they will say Macron doesn't even know how a baguette costs. How a pain chocolat cost. And this is the same feeling that we had with Berlusconi in the worst moment of his popularity.
Yes.
Because there is no mediation between the power and the people. So when you don't have party, when you don't have dialogue with social reality, like unions, people goes by themselves.
Yes.
I mean, you cannot stop them. You can take time, as Sasha said, with a new candidate, fresh face, fresh party, but then it will be even worse.
And En Marche, Macron's movement does not have it's top down. It came from him.
Yes,
it doesn't have the roots.
It doesn't have
the local level.
It doesn't have the structure. It doesn't have.
So you need to participate a process, to make the process participated. Otherwise, you have this reaction.
In his defense, of course, there were measures that he's now bringing them forward, but he just perhaps got it the wrong way around. I mean, he took measures that were seen as just benefiting the rich, of course, but the idea was to bring more investment.
I mean, but maybe he should have explained them better before.
Oh, absolutely.
And maybe I don't know if he's ever going to do that. Maybe he should have done something like a Tour de France, but going to smaller areas and speak more to people and just.
Well, he did, and it worked for him during the election campaign.
During the election, but not
then
since
it became just like he's out there lecturing people, and obviously there's something about him that just really grates with people. I've been shocked by the venom that people, especially amongst the gilets jaunes, see Macron as this crystallizing the whole. They don't talk about any other politicians. The Prime Minister is not mentioned.
It's true that he had some run-ins when he went out, and then.
He's quite. He's a big character. Put it that way. He's a very recognizable character in politics in France and in Europe as well. He was seen in the beginning when he took power as the savior of Europe.
Yeah, I mean he was the new young shooting star.
And very
Everyone was
pro-European, very much believing in the
Germany, they loved him. They were so happy that he got elected.
In his defense, I also wanted to add one thing, that basically, as we discussed here, that initially the gilets jaunes, the yellow vests, they started because of the diesel price and the tax.
Yes.
And when we saw all those pictures from Paris, from the Champs-Élysées, or the protests, of course, like impressive pictures. But we take the same shot, the same camera on the Champs-Élysées for the COP21 3 years ago.
Yes.
When France championed that agreement, right?
Yes.
And there was this need, and you see the demos, you see the people in the streets.
No, but I don't think that the gilets jaunes are against this,
no, they're not,
this tax. They just cannot.
Definitely. But at the same time, it's a bit of a, it's interesting to compare how Paris reacted to COP21 3 years ago for COP21 when the deal was agreed, and how much they all supported it, how they said, let's do something for climate, we have to do that, we have to help. And the proposed diesel price hike comes from the climate agreement. So you see what I mean? It was like, you see the Champs-Élysées with the protest. Of course, as we said, this is not the only reason.
And also maybe if he had found another way to finance it, if he had said, okay, we're going to raise the price a little bit, but also we are going to finance it with something else.
But he got some approval by President Trump for that, saying, my friend, on Twitter, with the tweet saying, that's it, the climate change deal was not really the perfect one.
To conclude, I would say maybe we won't have a yellow vest protest, but we will have a protest. That's for sure. Because the popularity of Macron is now at 27% this morning. I read. I mean, there is 3 on 4 of the country that doesn't approve his policy. And so we will have other protests. I don't know in which form. I don't know if they will dress yellow or not, but for sure we will have more and more.
Important to remember that there was always hostility to him from both sides, and in the first round of the presidential election he only got 24%. Then of course he was up against Le Pen, so
that helped.
A boulevard opened, but there's always been hostility from left
French
and right.
elections are going to be very interesting.
This game cannot go on forever. This then there is second round and you will elect the moderate. I think that game cannot go on, in forever.
No, but it doesn't work. I mean, already last time it worked. It works less and less because people are fed up with it, basically. Speaking of a neighbor of France, in Germany we also had more drama than usual, I have to say. And the German magazine Spiegel reported yesterday that apparently former US President Barack Obama, he urged Angela Merkel to take this forced mandate to seek re-election because he was very worried about Europe's fate, and he saw her as a factor of stability. Is that still the case now that she is still there, she's still a very strong politician, but she has started to say her goodbyes. We see an end of the era Merkel. So for Europe,
it's a letdown for Macron, isn't it? He was hoping for a big ally in Angela Merkel, and has perhaps been disappointed that she didn't go along with his ideas for European reform. Her hands were perhaps tied by domestic politics, but it leaves Emmanuel Macron very isolated on the European stage as being that sort of standard bearer for this strong, united Europe. And of course, it's becoming extremely fractious. And now there's a lot of uncertainty about what happens next in Germany.
She's been seen by as this, the stability, politician. I don't know. She's for years, not only by other politicians from other countries, but by Germans as well. No,
I mean for Germans as well. It's like in Germany, she's called Mutti. She's called she's mom. So she's
Mama is leaving.
Yeah. So and many and a whole generation since they have started to vote always had the possibility to vote for her. So of course there's a big. You kind of trust her, and she has led the country through many crises. But at the same time, many people are also starting to. There's a certain fatigue. You say, okay, maybe maybe let's try something new or do things a little bit differently.
And the backlash against letting in the migrants, is that the real turning point, do you think?
Yes, but at the same time, she gained an approval since she stepped down as a party leader. People are kind of respecting her more because they say, okay, she is preparing to say goodbye. She acknowledges that this is the last term. And that in some way has been appreciated. People respect her for that. They also have maybe the feeling that she's going to do everything that's in her power in order to leave in a ordered, well-mannered way. So now her approval has gone.
Has gone. Successor, so it's a bit more stable. I try. I will learn. We will all have to do that. And that was a big. Of course, that was like one of the top jokes on Twitter.
You can use the short version.
Okay,
AKK.
all the journalists, like embrace yourself and do that. I have some time. I still have a little bit. Like give me like my Christmas, my winter break. I'll spend on that. But the fact that it's her still gives lots of feeling of stability.
Yes, of course, because she's seen as a little bit of Merkel's protégé, and so there will be a certain continuity. But
she has the authority now to even try to ask for an European position.
I think she's more free now because she's.
She could be the first leader recognized by people. Because let's say that till now European Commission has been led by people that if you ask somebody everywhere,
you want to say that she's not going to run for the...
she said that maybe she's going to change her mind, but
at least she will.
But she said she doesn't want to. But she doesn't want to stay. She doesn't want to go to Europe or.
About her, we can say that. With her, we are in the end of a generation. That is with Kohl or Mitterrand or this generation, political generation, that unfortunately we don't have anymore.
But where is opinion in Germany on this? Do they want a Merkel Mark II, or do they want? Are they getting as restless as?
Well, it's quite difficult. I mean, if you go by who is now party leader, they don't want to completely change. I mean, they chose AKK, who stands for continuity. So, but the Greens are gaining in influence. They are becoming more and more not like a side party, but like a major party, and also because they in a few länder, in a few regions, they are in power, and often they work with the conservatives. So they are now not just a green party, but a party that can have a say and on all topics.
I believe that's a big political tendency.
So I think that is quite important thing to watch, also because this summer was very, very hot, and there was a drought all over Germany, and some say that this kind of hit home, and many people are now saying, oh well, this climate change, it's not just in the paper, it's we saw it outside our door, so
the proof is there.
And I mean the Greens always had maybe more success in Germany than in some other countries, so it's going to be an interesting thing to watch how the whole landscape will change.
Lena, can I be back to your what you say on Merkel about the opening of the border?
Yes.
I think she earned the page of history books with that. This is something that a leader does. It's not something that.
And also, it's something she sticks to it. She made a lot of compromises. She's the woman of compromise. She's the woman who always waits, who always sees, who always says, okay, let's see, and then okay, we're going to find a solution. But there are a few decisions, and that was one where she said, no, I'm doing this, and I'm sticking to it.
This is the moment where you showed to be a leader, and you earn the history. That will be an historical moment.
I mean, but this is a decision that defines her. I mean, it will be in her legacy.
Well, I'm going to add that one. I mean, another thing in her legacy for sure will be the fact that she basically she guided Germany through the crisis.
Yes.
She guided the country in the best possible way. I mean. probably, we can discuss all these theories about how else could you do that with another country, with another economy. But the way she did it was totally the best in the EU. We can say that. With the 2008 financial crisis and then the sovereign debt crisis, we saw Germany as the only, the largest economy in the European Union, standing still and really even growing when the others were just going down. That's another one that goes into her legacy. Yes. I have to say that I'm here as an economist.
No, but it's true there, but it's a big legacy.
Then, from a southern European point of view, then came the tensions with Greece, no?
Yes.
So the big bully Germany was looked upon in a bit of a different way, no?
It would be interesting to see how she's seen in 50 years.
What will she be doing now? Well, not now.
Well,
we still have some time.
She will go. I think she always spends her vacations in Italy. Always the same vacations.
I'm from Napoli, and when I worked for agency, the first year she were a German German chef of the government, chancellor. ANSA sent me. I worked for ANSA in that period. ANSA sent me to the airport because the news was that she were coming by a state plane and the husband by EasyJet. So in Italy, this is a news. Can you imagine the husband of the German Prime Minister coming with a private plane? So I were there waiting for the Merkel husband.
So there are many plane stories surrounding Germany, surrounding Merkel, because she couldn't go to Argentina, and then the case when she was supposed to go to Argentina, then her husband was left behind because there was no place for him on the plane.
I certainly hope that she's going to stay there in Ischia, and she probably, I really hope so. She's going to write some kind of memoirs, because that's the book I would certainly want to read.
Absolutely.
Her insights on on all this time in
all those
politics.
Summits, all those private conversations with other leaders over 13 years.
Would be interesting. Well, speaking of Southern Europe, you also had an eventful year in Italy.
The greatest.
So there were many promises made. Are they going to be fulfilled?
But the discussion is not about the promise. It's about the capacity those two government parties still have to penetrate the net. They don't need to say, look at us, we did that, are you satisfied? No, because
it's a new tactic to reach the voters.
And there is even a difference between Five Star and Lega, because Five Star movement is a party born on the net. Is originated on the net.
Yes.
So they can spread any information. The Five Star elector doesn't even watch the news bulletin anymore.
So it's the only source is Twitter, Facebook,
and Facebook mostly in Italy. Facebook for the storytelling is perfect. Twitter is only as press office,
And they were going Facebook Live.
We could link that to Brexit, I'm sure, as well. And we could. I'm not saying that people didn't know whatever, but a lot of people were on social media, and this is where they were fired up for certain things. And of course, the gilets jaunes, the yellow vests. Sasha mentioned Annalise watching the Macron address on TV with people. Now they were forced to watch.
Yes.
Le Monde, they've got a similar reports where they were with people, the gilets jaunes, watching Macron's address, or at least the next day. They didn't even discuss it. It's gone so far beyond what the president could deliver that they are outside that zone. It's conversations amongst themselves, and in fact, the positive thing about the yellow vests that we perhaps didn't mention is that people in isolated areas seem to have found a new sense of community and camaraderie on those roundabouts,
and maybe
and all the
help each other.
But they do glance at TV bulletins or something. But when the next morning, they didn't even at this particular roundabouts, the gilets jaunes didn't even mention Macron's address the previous night. So what he announced on minimum wage or whatever was neither here nor there. They've got a movement that's gone beyond that, and for a lot of them it is spread on social media, and that's perhaps ties in with what Salva is saying about Italy.
Also, not only the politicians but also the journalists will have to find other ways to reach people and to inform people because the usual things.
I think the political message, the message comes directly from political leader. that you cannot filter anymore. I mean, it goes directly as it is.
We had it with Salvatore. We were waiting, just a quick interruption, we were waiting a couple of times for the speeches, and of course at Euronews we have the live feed from many news agencies. And we were talking to each other, and we were like, Salvatore, so do we have him speaking? Do we have him live? Facebook. And he was like, yes, on Facebook.
On Facebook, yes.
What do you mean on Facebook?
I mean, they don't need agencies anymore.
Di Maio, didn't he? He's got, 3 million, 4 million followers, and he
Salvini
just does rants for 3 minutes or longer on the video.
And whenever he wants.
Corriere della Sera has how many?
He has his own coverage. His own pictures, his own.
Even when he does institutional meeting, he has his own cameraman.
Exactly.
And goes on Facebook with his own video and his own commentary.
Because we did a story, and then I said, well, where do the pictures come from? And they were like, okay, we have to credit Matteo Salvini. So you're like, okay.
But Salvini is still. Salvini is let's say still linked to the old. Political appeal. I mean, now is very popular. Now is a moment that in Italy is very popular. But that is 2019
will become his year.
That is related to the opinion. You know, that can be now is okay, but maybe in 6 months can fall down, as we see. You know, with Macron, for example. What is different between him, that is linked to an old way to do politics, you know, and get the let's say the support of people, is that five-star movement, they are able to modify the message ongoing. And you know, it's very interesting to see that, for example, five-star movement is not right or left. You have the president of chamber that is a leftist guy, and you have the leaders of government that are more moderate. So they just need to change pictures. You know, those guys that we see, 30 years, 35 years old. They just play a role, and so it will be very easy for them change face and wait, for example, the resurrection of Democratic Party, because in this moment we don't have opposition. But the Democratic Party reborn, if it will be, can be, for example, a good help for the left side of five-star movements to stay in power. Salvini is linked to all the, I think, now the survey say that he's around 33%, but I don't think that this percentage is stable. It's something
so
linked to the opinion.
We can expect more twists and turns from Italy in 2019?
Not in the first half, but maybe in the second.
I think it's going to start with the European elections. What do you think?
The European election will be a good turning point, because can change that can change the dynamic within the majority.
Yes.
Because now we have a majority of five-star movements representing 32% of the parliament, and the North Party Lega, is 17%. I think in the European election there will be like 30-30.
Wow.
Maybe Salvini can go ahead. That, of course, will change the dialogue in the majority, and can be even an alarm for five-star, saying, look, I mean, we put this guy at the government in the majority, and he's eating us.
But I mean, the European elections are going to be interesting not only for Italy, but
everywhere.
I mean, it's like the big event of 2019.
Again, I have to justify my presence here. I have to say that yesterday, like when we had the whole weeks and months long budget saga in Italy, we were like almost celebrating with Salvatore yesterday the fact that we have clarity, that we are not
the fact that you have a deal,
the fact that we have the budget deal, that we can at least see what's there.
So
Italy has a deal now.
I was like,
we're jealous.
Yes, exactly.
We're jealous. Yeah.
It was like, okay, we can all go on a winter break at least, having some clarity here, knowing that we don't have much here,
And in order to end on this happy note, I asked all of you if you had some happy news, and I'm not the only one, because one of our viewers, Daria, she said, also, could you please please include some positive news.
We actually do.
So can we end on a positive note?
Before we go to our selection, we try. We seriously, please trust us. We try every single day, and we encourage each other. And when we find something good, remember the cow story, the book crossing the border?
Oh yes.
We loved the story. This is a good news story. We are doing our best. Please trust us.
Alistair?
The good news, when Liverpool beat Napoli. No, I'm joking. I'm not even a Liverpool fan. I'm an Arsenal fan, but Liverpool puts Napoli out of the Champions League. No.
Please stay.
I wanted to find something about dolphins in the Mediterranean because I saw lots of dolphins in the Mediterranean this summer, and I thought there must be some good news there.
Yeah.
But I looked online and it threw up lots of stories about an American football team in Miami. So, Miami Dolphins. Anyway, no, I think there are good news stories buried underneath. The odd little one, like a cow crossing a border or something, is a bit neither here nor there. Our challenge is to report more cases where there are citizens' initiatives, for instance, whether it's on plastic pollution or whatever. And there are those things happening despite all the doom and gloom. And of course, it depends really on your perspective. Don't forget, for lots of people, Brexit is great news. Gilets jaunes are great news. So, you know, but of course, we know that there's lots of tension and hostility everywhere. So we're looking for something that is
for those who are not fan of anger and frustration on the news all the time.
Exactly.
Salvatore?
No, the image I have in my mind since yesterday was this 101 years old lady that was between Merkel and Macron in the day of the celebration of the end of the First World War, the centenary.
Yes.
And you know, the way the emotion she felt when she understood to be between a French president, a German chancellor,
and she confused Macron's wife.
But you know, the emotion to be. Can you imagine 101 years old that saw all the German chancellor, you know, and now she can be between them. This is something we have to keep. We have to show her to all the new generation and say, look at how this lady is so happy to be between two leaders that were enemy for centuries. You know, for the
that is true. The
you know, that can be a great lesson.
Peace is always a good news.
Now we talk about nationalism. Look what nationalism was for them.
Yes.
The disaster.
Yes.
So, you know, let's use this 100 years old experience to learn something.
Wise words.
And the Forza Napoli.
Well, I feel, you know, I'm comfortable bringing up my good news. Well, I have another one just now. I had a thought while Alistair was, you know...
See, now you have many.
Because, I mean, how can I say they both of them, they have such a powerful speech now, and I cannot come up with the idea I had beforehand. The great story from recently, the report from Portugal on some of the migrants who were in the Aquarius in the summer when Annalise Borders was there.
Yes.
Just recently, like a week ago or so, we had the report from a couple of migrants from the Aquarius, from that saga when Italy blocked the ports, how they tried to re-establish themselves and start their new life in Portugal, and how they're celebrated, how they were supported by their new colleagues when they suddenly, you know, you see, like, you know, the work somewhere, the colleagues are cheering up when they start speaking a bit of Portuguese.
Yes.
Of course, they're not there yet. They come up with a couple of words, but they make effort. And when you see, it's not even about the effort, it's about the support they get and how they are, you know, cherished and embraced. That was a great story.
It's the beginning of a new life.
You see, on an inspiring
It's also very
night.
Hopeful.
Yes, it was very hopeful, and it was very emotional to see that.
So there are also good stories. Well, this concludes our debate for
you
today.
You didn't say yours.
Oh, mine. I followed... yes, I knew you would say that. I followed the German astronaut Alexander Gerst, who went to the ISS for the second time. And because
Space Station.
International Space Station. Because when on Earth cooperation doesn't work, and then you look at space and on the ISS, it works very well. And also they often send, I think, also very meaningful messages about how small Earth is seen from the ISS, and how we really, really have to think about the environment, and we really, really have to concentrate maybe a little bit more on that and on protecting our small blue Earth. So I think that was my my good news. And maybe we're going to talk about the environment in our next Journalist Roundtable, but that will be in 2019. So until then, I wish you a good end of the year, good festivities, and see you next time.